Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Mary Heron Dyer has published several books covering theology, the LGBT community, and her sudden hearing loss in 2008. As a minister, she's been at the bedside of people sick and dying and guided them through grief and healing. Then it was her turn. The name of her book, Navigating the Rippling Land of Grief, Reflections on the Journey. Mary, more than 25 years ago, you kept a journal as your 20-year-old daughter endured terminal cancer. And you say you didn't like how the funeral industry had changed. What do you mean by that?
The process of grief had been effectively taken away by the funeral industry by the 1980s, including the American Way of Dying by Jessica Mitford. So now, instead of having the body in the home and laying it out for people to visit, the body kept taken off to the mortuary immediately after death if it was at home. The funeral was in a mortuary. The grieving people were put behind a veil, and that was it, and everyone went home. The way we used to do it, we were able to wear black armbands. So I decided I was going to midwife my family, which included her older brother and sister that were already adults, and my ex-husband with whom I always maintained friendly relationships. And so we did everything at home. She told me what flowers she wanted for her memorial service, what she wanted to happen there. She picked the pictures out that she wanted enlarged to show at her memorial service. When she died, I was fortunate enough to be the only one with her. Hillary and I would trade off towards the end. I would come from work an hour away to spend the night with her, in the room. And she died right after I got there one night, after I told her it was all right, to let go. So we immediately called the mortuary, but told them that they could not pick her up till the next morning. Then I went next door to tell our next door neighbors, two women, one of whom actually babysat the older kids when I went to the hospital to give birth to her. I contacted my ex-partner, a good friend of mine. Heron wanted me to call our minister friend, although he was a total atheist. And so when my friend got there, she and I went in, arranged her body, put on her dolphin music, and people got to come in and visit. And when my daughter came, she asked her brother if they could go in together alone to be with her. And so this whole thing, I was the midwife to her dying. And at the memorial service, my older daughter, who was very publicity shy, took over all of the arrangements. She gave a beautiful testimony about what her little sister had meant to her. My son, who is still very shy, actually played his guitar for the first time in public. And so it was a totally integral experience that recaptured what I believe all of us should be doing. Why hand it over to somebody outside our family?
Okay, so this is what your book's about, taking control of dying.
It is. The thing that's different about this book, though, I hadn't even thought to turn it into a book, was when I couldn't find words when I was writing in my journal for myself, I had to draw drawings. And they evoked questions like when I lost my keys because I was, impinging,
Yeah.
I drew a picture of keys lying on the roadside. And then I would ask a reflection question underneath. In what ways has this happened to you? So instead of it just being focused on me and my journey, it turned into a book for anyone who has had profound grief of any kind, which is basically everyone. And so I had about 64 pictures all throughout the book. And so I turned them into three sections. The first grieving process when the person is still alive. And then, the aftermath of that, which is, depression and sadness, and then the moving on. And then I developed playing cards. On the back would be the color for green or for blue, or for the beginning it was purple. Then you turn over and you see the picture I drew plus the question. And so that way, I wanted people not to be just observers. I wanted them to use my experiences of a particular dying process to reflect on any grief they had, and it didn't have to be death of anyone. And I mean, probably including babies when they first came out, like, what the hell is this? They just don't remember. So it gives a way to somebody reading my book, going through my journey, to choose whatever big grief in their life they have had and can reflect and perhaps look at it a different way, or to let go of something they've been holding on to, which I think is what makes this particular book really unique, where I'll show you one card and another and another, so you can look at what the colors are, the question for each process you learned.
Give me an example of that.
I drew a picture of the Runaway Bunny. It was a story that was written that Margaret really loved. I read it to her a lot of times and read it at her memorial service. It's about a little runaway bunny that wants to run away from home, and he keeps trying, and she says, if you go over the ocean, I'll find you. You know, if you go there, I'll find you. And finally, the rabbit, which is male, but I chose it into, female for the memorial service, says, I might as well come home. So he comes back, and the mother says, here's a carrot. And when I read that to her, on the last couple of nights, she was having nightmares. And one of the things she was saying, Mom, I was having nightmares. And I dreamt that you came to me, and I said, I'll always come back to you, Margaret. And so it was just a way to talk about alienation and the pull towards healing.
Okay. And the front of your card says good grief.
Yes.
That's great.
I also used to do grief workshops, and we're in the process now of moving to Santa Fe. But I would really like to do this approach now, where I would have a group of people and then maybe would ask which stage of grief they were in, and then hand each of them in that group one of the cards that they would break off and read and discuss where they were in that process. So I think it's a whole different way to do. I used to co-lead a grief group in the hospital, and one of the memories I had was when one of the women would always show up, and her first statement would always be, my name is so-and-so, and then she would give the exact day and hour that her fiance had died. And every year it was the same thing. So she was literally stuck into just focusing back on the day he died. And so it's a way to take an icebreaker to a block of ice and to get people to get out of their rut. Like they have a highway in Alaska that says, choose your rut carefully, you'll be staying in it for a long time.
So you're pretty well known as a writer, pretty well known for your work. It sounds to me that this book will be a companion to workshops that you want to do in the future.
Yes.
Is that how you plan to get the word out about your book and to sell your books?
Well, I think I've done many avenues to get them out, and so it's not contingent upon that. What I'm hoping to do is that other people will, when they read it, I have all of the questions at the back of the book, one on each page, so they could actually, when they're reading it, they can turn to the back and, write in their responses. And then if they want to, they can also order the grief card. So it's an invitation within the book itself for other people.
It's like a grief workshop, all in one book.
Yes.
To get you through. Now, what's next?
I think that there are a number of ways my works are coming out. For instance, the spirituality and sexuality professor at Pacific School of Religion, and that will be coming out next month. So I'm pursuing other things like that where they will be advertise.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're in you have a lot of groups, you have a lot of contacts, you have a lot of ways to get the word out about this book.
Yes.
All right, thanks for joining us on Zoom. Mary Heron Dyer, Navigating the Rippling Land of Grief, Reflections on the Journey.
All right, thank you.
A pediatrician in Birmingham, Alabama, Dr. Joseph Jolly was inspired by his therapy dog to write Boo's Special Day. So inspired, I might add. You got this book done in what, a couple of days? Tell me about Boo.
Well, Boo is he is a Newfoundland dog. He is a big, giant teddy bear. He weighs about 185 pounds, and I've had him since he was a baby. We've had him since he was a 2-month-old puppy, and he's always just had a kind of a really calm, sincere personality. And this local program we are with that does animal assisted therapy, I'd always wanted to work with them before, but in the past with other dogs we'd had, just their personalities just did not seem to be a good fit. But Boo just seemed to be a natural for it. So I made the decision to do some training with him and see if he would be a good fit for the program, and he passed with flying colors.
So no matter how many times you pull on his ears or on his tail, I remember what my kids used to do to our dog. We had a Lab Shepherd mix, and she would let him know, like, no, but she was always very gentle. Does he ever react to kids at all?
He does not actually.
Wow.
I mean, and that's actually part of the training that they go through, is to see, that he will be able to tolerate things like that. And no, when he's around kids of all ages. He goes to kids with special needs, like classrooms with children who have autism, and he's never been overwhelmed by any of it at all. He's just a big gentle giant around any kids that he's around.
Is this a true story?
It is a true story. Well, it is a true story, and it's sort of a blend of several different encounters that he's had over time. Because he does actually go, he goes to the local children's hospital once a month, and but he also visits children at local schools and works with school counselors. He visits children at a local family court as well, at a county family court, where children are kind of going through crisis of custody situations. So he sits with the kids there during those court sessions. So it's sort of a culmination of several different kinds of visits that he's been on in the past.
So all of these places that he goes, you go with him in addition to your practice?
I do, yeah.
So when are you home, sir? When are you home? That's a lot.
Yeah. I'm usually out of the office one day a week, and we try to make time to do visits as often as we can. So, but
tell me about this special day, Boo's Special Day.
This story is more of a representation of what his days and visits at the hospital are, but it's to kind of show the process of one of these visits and how they often go. And and our group is called Hand and Paw, and there's over 100 different therapy teams in this group, and so many of them are able to go to these local hospitals, and we hear these stories time and again from people whose lives they've touched. And so this is sort of like more of a culmination of those experiences as well. And this is a story of on a very particular day when Boo goes to the local children's hospital. And I mean, it's very realistic in that when he gets there, the people there, from the security guard to the front desk to the nurses station, they recognize him and they know him by name now, and they call him out in the hallway and love to see him coming. And of course, being a dog of the size that he is, just being a massive dog, he attracts a lot of attention when he just walks through the hospital and just sees patients and their families as they're walking down the halls. And then when he gets to actually go to visit different patients in their rooms or in local clinics, he just gravitates towards these children, and he has a very caring nature for them. He seems to know, how to be just the right amount of gentle that the kids need if they're in a wheelchair, if they've got IV poles. He's been trained to avoid getting entangled in those kind of things and not be scared or intimidated by them at all. Um, and we've just had so many positive experiences with him doing this. And like the scene in there where the child in the book is braiding his hair. I mean, that happens on a regular basis with him. We actually carry in a backpack with him. He actually has a hairstyling kit for kids to use to braid his hair and put ribbons and bows in his hair, and the kids love it because he's got such long, thick hair that it's just very easy for them to put all kinds of little doodads in it. But on this particular special day, this little girl, her name is Cindy, by the way. It doesn't necessarily say it as much in this particular book, but Cindy is a little girl who's been recently diagnosed with cancer, and so she is spending her time in the hospital, and getting treatments for cancer, and not feeling very well, and not feeling very social, not hungry, not wanting to eat, and she's also missing her home and missing her own dog from home. And so the nurses at the hospital decide to arrange a visit for Boo to come and see her because they thought it might be just what she needed to cheer her up. So this story is about that particular special day where Boo goes on one of his normal regular hospital visits, but he's been requested to come and specifically see this little girl named Cindy. And when he, initially when the nurses tell Cindy that she's got a visitor for the day, she's not very enthusiastic about having a visitor because she just doesn't feel good. But when Boo walks in the room, it changes her whole personality, and she immediately is drawn to him, and he's drawn to her. And she has 1,000 questions about Boo, and immediately she's able to start spending time with him, and she gets to do his hair for him, and it just takes her out of the moment when concentrating on her sickness, and lets her focus on being just a happy kid again, and reconnecting with the dog to remind her of her dog at home.
How old is she?
And well, it's not specified in the book of what her age is, but I would estimate the way I've illustrated it and the way I've written it, I estimate she's probably about 10 years old. She asks if he's going to be able to come back again and visit him again, and we mentioned that for as long as she's there, either Boo or some of his friends can come and visit her on a regular basis and see her, but we don't necessarily find out what happens with her treatment or anything like of that nature.
So the name of the organization is Hand in Paw. Mm-hmm. What a great commercial this is. If you have any doubts about animals coming into hospitals, because I'm sure there's people that go, oh, I'm allergic to dogs or whatever, might have an issue with dogs or animals in the hospital.
Right. And this just goes to show that how beneficial that they are, and what a role they can serve in the healing process.
Right. Do you take books with you to give to patients, or you got one in the office?
I do have one. I actually do have one in the office, and we actually have the QRC code to scan in the office, so people can, and in my exam rooms as well, so people can order the books. And we did have an author signing at a local Hand and Paw charity event, and we have been giving out copies of the books. I've actually given out some copies of the books to the local gift shop at the hospital to see if they will be able to stock it there at the hospital as well.
Oh, this is great. Does any of the money that you make on the book go back to Hand and Paw?
As a matter of fact, all of it does. I'm donating all the proceeds back to Hand and Paw.
That's great. Are you going to keep writing?
I'm certainly have the bug about it now, and I'm thinking I definitely may want to do it again and further, because we actually have another therapy dog that my wife is a handler for, who's a Great Dane, who's Boo's sister, adopted sister, and we thought about maybe making another book about her, and maybe about her and Boo together.
That sounds great. Joseph Jolly, author of Boo's Special Day. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Brian Hayes is an aerospace engineer turned children's book writer, and he combines what he did for a living very nicely with his story about the Rainbow Girl. Now, where does this inspiration come from?
Well, grandchildren. So the birth of the first one, little boy, he inspired me to kind of start writing children's books, and I wrote a couple, and I just did them on Shutterfly, and had no idea really what I was doing, and I did like 3 that way, and would just give them to family and friends, and then last year she had a little girl, and so then all right, I'm going to write another one, and then I thought, okay, well, this time I'll try to get it published. So that was kind of how it all started.
So how'd you find Paige?
Did Google search. I started researching different publishers, and
That's great. So how did this story develop? We have Olivia, and your granddaughter's only a year old, so I don't think she's building robots just yet, right? So.
It all just, I think, happened organically. I wanted to write something that would empower young girls, right? Because she's a little girl, and wanted to write something that would be entertaining, fun for kids to read. Also, then it kind of turned into something educating them about climate change. So it really was just all very organic.
You got a lot of messages combined into one there.
Yeah, there was kind of a lot in there. And I'm guessing somewhere between ages of like 6 or 7 and 11, because it talks about greenhouse gases and that kind of thing. So I don't know if it gets a little too technical, but it will open it up for discussion, and I think put some awareness on the on their radar, what climate change is and why it's important. And
tell me about Olivia.
Oh, well, it starts out with Olivia as a young girl. There's a science fair. She wants to do something. She decides to build a robot. And so then it continues on, and she builds a series of robots. And as she grows older, she becomes more aware of the world around her and some of its issues. And she wants to do something to help. And so she does. And then some of her innovations wind up having a global impact, healing the planet by removing greenhouse gases and reducing the effects of climate change.
How does she tell us how to do that?
She builds these clean air pods that take the carbon dioxide and methane that are in the air, and she builds a robot and uses AI, actually have the robot help build itself and think like Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein's a big part of the book too, because Albert Einstein, he developed his theory of relativity. He started when he was just 17 years old. So I think it was like 1896 or something like that. So anyway, he is a hero of Olivia's, and so together, and she names him Albot. She has names, of course, for each of her robots, who are all very different. So she and Albot developed this serum that will extract the carbon dioxide and the methane from the air and turns it into oxygen. But then what happens is as varying levels of humidity, sometimes when it kind of exhales, it produces a rainbow, hence the Rainbow Girl.
Oh, this is great. Could we really make those pods, do you think?
You know what's so funny? Christmas Eve, we went out to dinner with some friends, and their daughter was in town for Christmas, and she is getting her doctorate in quantum physics at Berkeley, and she said they were actually working on something like that. So
That's great.
That really made me feel good. Yeah.
I wonder, your message, and I've interviewed a couple of authors that, want to get the climate change message across to kids.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, they're getting a message that climate change is dead. Like there is no such thing as climate change. Like how do you reconcile that? You depend on the parents.
Well,
Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like right now we're at a point where, there's a lot of people saying there's no such thing as climate change. This is just the natural progression of the earth. And, without noting that, maybe we've accelerated things, based on some of the things that we do.
I hear you. And unfortunately, climate change has become politicized. And so there has been, a large effort by our government now to like shut down the websites and stuff that track climate change. And it really is a shame because science is science. So, I think it is important for us to educate our kids on the harmful effects of climate change. And, it just seems like absolutely everything is politicized and polarized these days. And yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah. Like how to get the kids over that hump when that's what's coming in. But this goes back to parents, right? Speaking of which, how do you get to parents who are going to buy these books for these kids?
I donated some books to some middle schools here in the area, and I'm going to go there and do some readings. And then I'm also doing a book signing at Barnes and Noble in March, I believe. So starting to try to kind of get it out there.
That's great. You're doing all the right stuff.
Well, thank you. And I'm on digital media now. I wasn't on Instagram and Facebook, and so now I'm on there, kind of trying to figure it out. It's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Are you going to keep publishing, do you think?
Yeah, I'm halfway through a second book that I'm looking to publish later this year. Yeah, plan on keeping going.
Is Olivia going to be the character throughout, the main character?
Not in this book. This book is, I wanted to do something to reach a younger target audience. So I didn't want to have any kind of a technical content in like this one. This is The Rainbow Girl is kind of like a STEM book for kids almost. So this one is Milo, the misunderstood monster.
Great.
He's about this monster that just kind of wants to fit in and make friends.
Great. You are Brian Hayes, author of The Rainbow Girl. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Staff Sergeant Douglas M. Ducote, U.S. Army retired, started writing about his military experience, and then he had an epiphany and came up with Baton Rouge to Baghdad and Back, the humorous side of military service I lived through.
I never really had much care about writing. I just was always telling stories about, things that I went through in the military with family and friends. And I always, people would say, man, you should write about that. You should write about that. And then in my later years, when I decided I'd go ahead and write about my 4 combat tours, it just was overwhelming to me, and it was very depressing. And it just, a light bulb clicked. I listened to what they've been telling me and write about the funny stuff. And it went from originally starting probably several years ago to where I just couldn't finish it. Reliving 4 combat tours was difficult. And but when I started writing the funny stuff, I kicked that book out in 45 days. Yeah.
45 days? You wrote the whole book?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Probably not even that long.
What's your favorite story, sir?
Probably the pig chase.
Okay, where was that?
That was at, actually wasn't in combat. That was at Fort Stewart, Georgia, uh, where we used, not on purpose, but by accident, we were flying a helicopter into Fort Stewart, Georgia, and it was on a weekend, and there was not any air traffic around, and the pilot knew the air traffic controllers, and they were hunters, and he had some deer stands set up around the airfield and mentioned, I killed this 6-point deer here or this 8-point over here, and while we're hovering around the area, I noticed the backs of these strange animals in the tall grass, and I said, "What is that?" Mr. White, our pilot, said, "Well, that's wild boar. Watch this." And so he brought the helicopter real low, and the boar ran away from out towards the runway where the grass was cut shorter. And sure enough, there's these wild pigs. And he set the helicopter down and said, "You're from Louisiana. You think you could run out there and catch one of these pigs?"
No.
And of course, it was a joke just to see if I would do it, because I guess, he kind of thought that people from Louisiana were hillbillies or whatever. I don't know. And so I said, "Sure, give it a shot. Let's do this." And me and my crew chief jumped out, and we go chasing this pig around, knowing that we can't catch this pig. But at one point, the pig took off directly for the runway. He picked the helicopter up, brought it around in front of the pig. And when the pig turned to run away from the helicopter, now it ran right into my arms, and I tackled it. And the air traffic controllers who hunted from the tower for deer, one of them jumped in a van or truck and drove over there for bow and arrow and killed the pig and threw it in the back of the truck and thanked me, and we had a pig roast later.
You had a pig roast. You weren't afraid to eat a wild pig.
Oh no, I'm from Louisiana. We eat everything.
Oh my gosh. Aren't they nasty? Like they're not like docile creatures. The pig didn't try to like bite you. I mean, aren't they nasty?
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, I straddled it, and I was holding its head to stop it from biting me. And then I had my crew chief there helping me hold it down. It was squirming and trying everything in its power to get away.
Oh
but I mean, I didn't know he was going to kill it, or I probably wouldn't have let it. I probably would have let it go, to be honest with you, as much as I love animals, even though I'm a hunter.
Right.
But I was a hunter back then. But I had no idea. But yeah, I was trying his damnedest to get away and bite and everything else and kick and stunk and.
When you in your book, when you talk about the humorous side of military service, I immediately thought of MASH. And, the series MASH lasted longer than the Korean War. That was kind of what that was, it was
right.
Stories from the front. Do you have stories like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's, I have a story about during Desert Storm prior to the war kicking off, probably around Thanksgiving time, I guess. My parents had sent me this big old box, a care package, and they sent care packages all the time. And I opened this care package up, and on the top of it is newspapers and then some magazines, and then there's, baby wipes and, Pop-Tarts. But at the very bottom of it was a fifth of Jack Daniels and a case of Budweiser packed in there. And so it's a very, very heavy box. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not allowed to have anything like that over there. And so I hid it in my tent area. And then I had to figure out, okay, who can I trust that I can share this with? And so I figured that out. And then so we set a plan out to when are we going to do it? When are we all going to have the time off that we can make this happen? And it just so happened this one particular night, all of us weren't flying that evening and we had time off. And so we chose to go into this bunker that was on the very outskirts of the airfield that we never used anymore. And so we got in that bunker and we sat there and we drank that fifth and we drank that beer.
Oh, geez.
And went staggering back into the tent area to find that nobody was there. Everybody was gone. And we're like, whoa, what just happened? And somebody come into the tent and went, "Where have you guys been? You know, we have a mandatory meeting over at the commander's tent area like 30 minutes ago, and we've been hunting for y'all." And we're like, "Oh no." And so we stumble over there to be told that tonight the war starts.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so then we had to all go into our what's called the mop gear. You know, we had to put on these it's a pants and shirt that's real heavy that protects you from chemical weapons, and you wear these rubber gloves and rubber boots, and you put this mask on, and
Oh my God.
protective mask. On top of that, we put our wet weather gear on, which is plastic, so we're like there's just a burrito all wrapped up, and just wait to see if Saddam's going to launch chemical weapons. And well, you can imagine if you're highly intoxicated in that condition, what's going to happen next.
Oh no.
And of course, we started dehydrating and making a mess.
You were all throwing up.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
nobody knew. Nobody knew what was up with you.
They just knew we were very sick, and a lot of the other people were worried that chemical gas had hit us, and our masks weren't working, and theirs were, and so they were pretty panicking. The people around us were. But it had nothing to do with chemical gas. It had something to do with Brother Jack Daniels.
So you've told these stories before. You're a great storyteller. Are you able to continue doing that in order to bring attention to your book and get people to read it?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm going to start doing some. Well, I've already been doing speaking engagements, not necessarily with the book, but I have a podcast that I do, and I also used to be I'm the founder of Veterans United for Justice, which is a veteran advocacy group. So I travel around the country and I give speeches for Veterans Day and Memorial Day and things related to politics and stuff like that. So I do a lot of that, and now I'm going to incorporate the book into it. But I'm going to do some Barnes and Noble book signings and things of that sort. Go to the different military installations at the museums and do some speaking stuff and promote the book that way as well. And I'm probably going to go around to some of the VA hospitals and donate books to those guys and just go in and talk to them and cheer them up and give them a copy of it.
That sounds like a great idea. You're lucky you have that kind of a platform.
Yeah, I've been very lucky to have that kind of a platform. I've got about 1.6 million followers right now between all my social media platforms and my website. So I put it all out there. And
well, that's what you get for military service. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Staff Sergeant Douglas M. Ducote Sr., United States Army, retired author of Baton Rouge to Baghdad and Back, the humorous side of military service I lived through. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you, and God bless.
Ella Hanners is a firefighter and EMT in Georgia who started writing fan fiction about 10 years ago at the age of 12. She was inspired by two authors, Suzanne Collins, author of the Underland Chronicles, who went on to write the Hunger Games, and Priscilla Shirer, who wrote the Prince Warrior series. Now, you've published The Guardian's Keys, and it's part of the Trio Urbis series. So you created this whole new world. Was any of it based on any people you know or any life experiences?
I mean, I kind of took a bunch of characters that are in it. They're based off of a bunch of people in real life, but no specific person is based off of one character or one character based off one person. I mean, it's kind of like attributes and characteristics of each friends and stuff like that.
And no particular experiences that you had in your own life?
Not necessarily. One of the big passions of one of my main characters, Alikia, is She really likes sharks. She loves marine biology, all that sort of stuff. If I was not doing firefighting, I wanted to go into marine biology and be a shark diver. So I wrote a lot about that. Starts off with essentially one character, but it goes into kind of going back and forth between two of my characters' perspectives for a while. A girl who's pretty much been bullied her whole life, shy, shut in, all that sort of stuff, moves from New Jersey to Florida with her family, which is her parents, and isn't really fitting in with school. She's really, really smart, and essentially she started school a year early, and also she skipped ahead one grade. So she doesn't fit in with school. She gets bullied a lot. And it pretty much starts off with some other friends, or soon to be friends, meeting her by protecting her from bullies. And it kind of goes from there. It dips into backstories of different experiences both her and then my other main character, Dash, has been through in their lives. And then essentially they get sucked into this world that, I mean, it goes off completely, just off the wall. But
well, how do they get sucked in? What happens?
So each of them found this book in their rooms, and it has a weird, like, prophecy sort of thing written in it. And so they don't really understand what it's talking about. They don't understand anything, but there's a bracelet in the back of the book. There's a pouch, like, nailed to the back of the cover of the book. And so they find a bracelet in this pouch and put it on. And essentially it's like this little glass orb with a figure of an animal in it. So for Dash, he has a figure of an orca or a killer whale in it. And for Alicia, she has a figure of a shark in it. And so they don't really think much of it, but as the book progresses another chapter, neither of them realize they can take the bracelet off. It's just completely stuck to them. They don't know how, like, they try to cut it off and it broke the scissors, it doesn't come off. So essentially they're just, okay, we have haunted bracelets, this is weird, kind of ignore it. And they don't have much time to think about it before they go on this field trip with their class and everything freezes. They're on the beach for this field trip and it's like everything just kind of froze in place. The seagulls frozen above them, the waves are frozen in the mid-cycle, and they're like, what the heck is happening? And then it seems like they kind of like sink through the sand and end up in the middle of the ocean, actually. But it wasn't the ocean on Earth, it's the ocean in a different world. So that's how they kind of got pulled into this other world.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that's very creative.
Thank you. And I don't know where it came from.
All right. So they get sucked into this other world. So somebody has targeted them. Somebody has targeted them specifically.
Yes, essentially.
Why them?
It kind of explains a little bit when you go into the book further. They meet, a bunch of new characters. They're all different. They're not necessarily human, not all of them. These different creatures, like guardians, which is supposed to be kind of like animals that weren't given a chance of life on Earth. They were killed very young, stuff like that. They kind of get reborn into this world, and they have two forms. So they have their guardian form, which is kind of like a humanoid form. They're kind of like people with different attributes. They look different. And then the other forms are when they're in their habitat, per se. So if it's like an orca, if they're in the water, it's an orca, So there's these different creatures, and each of them are assigned this guardian. So each human that is pulled into this world gets assigned a guardian. So Dash, who had an orca in his bracelet, is assigned Cork, who is an orca, obviously. And Alicia gets assigned to a boy named Tip, who is a shark. And so they meet with these two. They're kind of freaking out. They don't know what's going on in this world. They don't understand anything that's happening. Everything, like laws, seem to be flipped with physics and all that sort of stuff. So really confused. And then So they meet this guide of the city who is essentially, he's the person who put the books into their rooms. So calling them to the cities. So from there, it's kind of a whirlwind of everything that happens. They get assigned missions.
What kind of a mission?
Something's happening somewhere else in the world, like a village somewhere that might need help with a certain problem. It could be something, any sort of thing that they might need help with, they go to Guardians for, and they go to these cities for, which is where the warriors are called to. So
do they have to carry out the missions whether they want to or not? So they're all of a sudden, I'm a warrior, I'm assigned a mission, I have to go do it, and I just want to go home.
Pretty much. That was kind of how they, their thought process was on it, was I need to go home, but they have been called for these missions. So essentially they're like, okay, well, if we do this mission, can we go home? And yes, you can. You still are a warrior per se, but you need to get these missions done. It's just something they're called to do, essentially.
Okay. Are they asked to do anything evil?
No, so the cities are run by very righteous, intended people. They were put into this world because there are villains or there are bad people in this world that are trying to harm the natives to this world, per se. So what the cities are supposed to do is protect, the villages, the natives to this world. They fight off these villains, I guess you could call them, kind of act as peacemakers for the world. I wrote this mostly as just, I really like writing. It kind of is a good way to get emotions out, express yourself, I guess. And my little sisters have been, my fans for day one, reading with me, or I'll read my book to them. So they were the ones who really pushed me to, get it published, get it out there. They want, other people to read the worlds I've built and stuff. But it was more for fun.
How many books are in this?
I have the second one written. I am maybe a quarter of the way done with the third book. I've started a spin-off book. There's probably going to be 3 or 4 books in it.
You are Ella Hanners, author of The Guardian's Keys, and it's part of the Tria Urbis series.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
David Hillberg was a candidate for political office in California, an experience he is compelled to share in his book entitled Election Deniers: Observations of a Candidate. What office were you running for, David?
Yes, I was a candidate for the recall with 48 other candidates. And people don't know this, but there was also 170 more write-in candidates for governor.
For governor of California?
Yeah. In 2020, my ballot was actually denied by the ROV, the Registrar of Voters Office. And the letter of rejection came past the deadline for correcting your ballot, which means you have 7 days for you to correct it. But the elections office is supposed to notify you that, hey, you got a bad ballot here. And they could call you by phone or by letter. But the letter showed up past the deadline for corrections. And so I go, I'm tired of this. As I watch California do what they're doing, and then I went and ran for governor during the recall, met a lot of great people. I mean, I only met 3 people that wanted Gavin Newsom to stay in office. All the other ones, no matter what party they were, Democrat, Socialist, Republicans, Independents, the Green and Peace, whatever the sector allowed as a heading for a political party, which isn't a big list. Everyone wanted to get rid of Gavin Newsom. And yeah, that's basically what I put in my book, because I started researching California. I put my own personal life in there, intersected with what I saw during the politics. And I made friends with, candidates and such, went to dinner with them. And it was all, everybody wanted to get rid of Gavin Newsom because he's a crook. And then I found out that since 2019, his proclamation for the all mail-in ballots didn't have a published law by the legislature for him to do that. It came out 6 months after his proclamation during March of 20. It exposes the entire California election system. His appointees of 2019, it took him till 2022 to finalize what I call the coup, where they removed all election safeguards. When they proclaimed the all mail-in ballot, where the law said everybody gets a postcard to verify that they're a voter. That never happened. During the recall, I got an extra ballot. My brother got 6. Friends that were out of state who just moved away from California got ballots. And I watched the count. That's what really ticked me off, is nobody watched the count, because if you were a federal officer, you would have found out that the no vote never showed up during the vote. The yes vote and each candidate's vote showed up on a running tally on the computer. And we were watching the numbers go up and up. And of course, it did a little freeze and juggle, around midnight. But the numbers kept going up. But I never found the no vote. And then when they called the polls, they closed the polls and said, no more voting, we got to count our votes. That's when the no vote came up, and it was higher than the yes vote, and everything was froze, and all 58 counties had all the totals, but there was no votes until 3 days later when they all popped up.
You talk about the Hillberg blueprint. What is that?
That is what Robert Newman called he was a fellow candidate. We became friends. And that's what he called my book. My book is the Hillberg blueprint of getting rid of these people, which is basically arrest, just straight federal and state arrests from the ground up of every elections official who violated the Constitution and law in the conduct of the election.
So you're saying that there were just a ton of people working this election who were allowing things to happen that shouldn't have happened, illegal things to happen.
Yes.
And you think that they should all be arrested.
Yeah.
Is that the point of your book, to expose these people so that something happens to them? Or it sounded to me when I was reading your synopsis that you're basically sounding a warning for people who want to run for office in California, that this is what they're up against.
This is a warning for everyone, because in the old days, our elections were run by the citizens. You go to the house or go to the school and people counted stuff up, and by that night, it was all done. Now we have early voting, post poll closing, counts that have there's no chain of custody. We don't know where the votes are coming from or going to. It's kind of sad, because the people who promoted the election machines, the companies and salesmen and that, they made a law when they started using the voting machines that if you use our voting machines, we'll put money into your schools. That's a law. It's like, you use our voting machines, you get to use it to the money for schools, but it's the same as the lottery. How much money of the lottery is going to the schools today? It's the lottery machine has gotten so big, I don't think the schools are getting anything.
You have to prove it, though. Like, if you want to get rid of these people, not just you personally. I mean, you're laying it out in your book, but this would take an investigation, and, there would have to be undeniable proof, and then they would have to take action.
The sad thing is, there is undeniable proof, but nobody's taking action, because Rob Bonta was one of Gavin Newsom's selectees back in 2019. Along with Shirley Weber and the insurance commissioner. And if you look at the entire hierarchy of our state, you look at the judges, the non-elected judges, all the appointees, they either were Gavin Newsom or Jerry Brown. I went to 2 different grand juries, put in my paperwork, all my evidence, and they go, we're just secret. We're not supposed to be talking to nobody or telling you that we're doing an investigation. It's like my brother, he went to the grand jury and they go, we do not have the financial resources or the manpower to investigate your allegations.
So what do you suggest they do? Do you make suggestions in the book?
Well, my suggestion is for the federal government, because they're the only one that are independent from this one-party system, or as Robert Newman would say, we have a uni-party. It's just like the communists in Sacramento. We have no say. We have no representation. I made comments and stuff up and down the entire chain of command, looking for someone to help. Looked for judges. You write letters and send emails and make phone calls. And what I got was a visit by the California Highway Patrol Safety Division, along with my brother, where the Safety Division was basically made by Gavin Newsom to monitor candidates, and it's supposed to protect candidates and the politicians in California. But I noticed that they had a habit of harassing the candidates in California.
Okay, so I guess the only thing left for you to do is to draw attention to your book. Since it's all outlined, you lay everything out there.
The libraries you have to go through a system to get the book into the libraries. And I've been trying to get into the libraries with my book. They have a book fair in Los Angeles, which is coming up soon. I have a book signing at a book convention in Los Angeles. It's been to the German book fair, Frankfurt Book Fair, and also going to the Taiwan Book Fair, the Taipei International Book Fair.
Are you going to keep writing?
Yeah, I have 3 books in me. One's about my military career. It was a short-lived one. It's called F-15-4 to E Company 7th Aviation.
Okay.
The other one is to protect and deserve my time with the Sheriff's Department and Border Patrol. And then the other one is Dead Right, which is about aviation accidents and human factors.
All right. You are David Hillberg, author of Election Deniers, Observations of a Candidate. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Oh, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore.